We're going to dive into a pretty wild idea from one of the 20th century's heaviest hitters in philosophy, a guy named Ludwig Wittgenstein. The idea is this: what if our words don't just describe the world? What if they actually help create it? It sounds simple, but stick with me, because this one thought could change how you see, well, everything.
So let's just sit with that for a second. We usually think of language as, a bunch of labels we stick on a reality that's already out there, fixed and finished. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the words we use are more like tools or even like magic spells that actively shape the world we experience every single day?
And our guide for this whole trip is Ludwig Wittgenstein. This guy wasn't just some dusty academic. He totally turned philosophy on its head. He changed the game when it comes to how we think about language, what meaning even means, and what's actually going on inside our own heads.
Now, what's so fascinating is that Wittgenstein himself had this huge change of heart. His early idea was that language worked like a mirror. It just perfectly reflected the facts of the world. Simple, clean, logical. But then he completely flipped the script. He realized, no, that's not it at all. Language isn't a passive picture of reality. It's an active, living, messy practice that we do inside of reality. And that shift, it changed everything. Language is not a mirror of reality. It is a practice within it. So think about that. It's not a thing we use to just point at the world. It's something we do. It's how we build our relationships, our communities, our very worlds, one conversation at a time. Okay, so if language is a practice, a doing, then how does that work? This brings us to Wittgenstein's most famous idea, and it's a brilliant one. He called them language games. It's this amazing way of seeing words not as dead labels in a dictionary, but as living tools we use to get stuff done.
So what the heck is a language game? Well, it's just how we use words as part of a shared activity, what he called a form of life. Imagine builders on a construction site yelling, slab, or beam. Those words have a very clear, urgent meaning in that context, right? Because they're part of the game of building something. The meaning isn't floating inside the word slab, it's in the action. It's in the use. That's a language.
And the thing is, we're playing these games constantly, without even noticing. When a little kid points and shouts, dog, that's the naming game. When a scientist classifies a new insect, that's the measuring game. Sharing an inside joke with a friend, writing a poem, saying a prayer. See? They're all different games, each with its own vibe, its own rules, and its own way of making meaning.
And this is the absolute core of it all. Meaning is not found in words, but in how they are used. Think about the word rose. To a botanist, it's a plant with specific biological features. To a lover, it's a symbol of passion. To someone grieving, it might be a painful memory of their grandmother's garden. Same word, totally different meanings. Why? Because they're being used in different language games. Okay, but here's where it gets a little dark. What happens when one of these language games gets too big for its britches? When one way of talking becomes so dominant that it starts to push all the other games off the field. This is where Wittgenstein's thinking shows us something really important and kind of scary.
Let's take the scientific language game, for example. It is unbelievably powerful, right? It gives us medicine, technology, a deep understanding of the physical universe. In this game, a rose is a member of the genus Rosa, a bundle of specific chemicals. It's true, it's useful, but it's just one story. It's just one of the many games you can play with a rose.
Because in all these other games, the storytelling game, the myth-making game, the falling in love game, a rose can be so much more. It can be a grandmother's legacy, a sacred offering, a promise. And these meanings, they're not less real. They're just different. They live in a different kind of conversation. The real problem starts when one game, and let's be honest, it's often the scientific one, gets treated as the only game that tells the truth. When that happens, it starts to colonize our reality. It silences other ways of knowing. Suddenly, the language of poetry, of spirit, of deep relationship, it gets demoted. It's dismissed as not real or just feelings, instead of being seen for what it is, another powerful, valid way of making meaning.
And this is the punchline. This is the real cost. When language games narrow, worlds narrow with them. We literally lose the ability to see the world in its full richness. Our capacity for wonder, for connection, for awe, it shrinks. Our reality becomes flatter, duller, and a whole lot smaller.
So what do we do? How do we fight back against this narrowing? How do we create a healthier, more vibrant, an ecology of meaning? Well, according to this way of thinking, the answer is to play. We have to learn consciously how to play new games.
And we can make this super practical. Let's try it with the living world. Instead of just identifying a plant, what if we played the hello game, where you greet it like an old friend? Or the silence game, where you don't say anything, you just listen? Or the story game, where you try to describe what that plant feels like, not just what it looks like? These might seem like small things, but they are absolutely radical acts.
And this all connects to maybe Wittgenstein's most profound statement: to imagine a language is to imagine a form of life. Let that sink in. When you decide to play a new game, when you greet a tree as kin, you're not just using weird words. You are actively imagining and even beginning to build an entirely new way of living in the world.
And that's the giant, beautiful implication here. Playing these new games helps us break out of our human-only bubble. We can start to imagine a form of life where we aren't just masters of nature, but where we are in a real relationship with it. We can literally speak into existence an ecological reality, a world of human-plant co-being.
So, okay, let's bring this all the way back home. This isn't just some abstract philosophical exercise. It's a direct invitation. It's about becoming more aware of the invisible rules and the games that we are playing and that are playing us every single moment.
So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. What are the language games you live inside every day? The ones at your job, with your family, the ones you play inside your own head. And here's the bigger question. Which of those games are making your world bigger, and which ones are making it smaller? Which ones actually create enough quiet, enough respect for the rest of the world to speak back?